Hello everyone, my name is Greg. In this video, I am going to be talking about the atheist / skeptic community and why I really appreciate you guys. And I want to do this video partially to let all of you know that there are times that I will get frustrated at different subjects because I am very passionate about, like, the UFO / alien subject, and I'll explain why in this video. But I recognize that a great number in the skeptic community are, to use the term, skeptical of UFOs and aliens, and I will have links in the description bar below to things like the FBI files on UFOs, the NSA files, and things of that nature, and things that do point to the evidence that is undeniable that we do have, that the subject has been something our government, by our government I mean the US government, as well as other governments of the world, have known about. But part of what I want to talk about in this is a bit of a double standard that does irritate the piss out of me. That being, one of the things I had seen was when I asked a skeptic of what would it take to convince you, what would you consider evidence, convincing evidence of UFOs? And they had said about the general consensus of society agreeing that something exists. And I immediately shot back with, why don't you believe in God then? Because if all you're going to go by is a general consensus, a majority opinion regarding the belief of something, then if that is your only criteria, why don't you believe in God? Because still, the majority of people, the consensus opinion is that a God exists. The fact that you don't indicates to me that you know an appeal to popularity is not valid. It is a logical fallacy. Popularity doesn't mean true. And that same standard has to apply to atheists and skeptics when it comes to things like UFOs, even Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster or whatnot. Popularity doesn't mean true. And it's one, I grant you, some things are more and more improbable. But I'm not going to get into the whole Bigfoot thing and so forth, because it's totally off. It's a side subject. With this, like the subject of aliens, the reason I am very big on that, and I push that, is that awareness, even just the awareness of this shit's going on, something, in a sense, something is in our skies that is being observed, and not all of it can be counted up as being fake. Just because some can be explained away, there's other things that we don't understand this. And in that regard, just because you can explain away some doesn't mean you can take and lump all of them into that pot. That's part of my problem with the skeptic community, is they want to almost Archie Bunker it, that if it fits in one sliver, then it has to fit the whole group. You can't do that. You can't pigeonhole an entire group, all cases, by the actions of a few. It simply doesn't work. It's intellectually dishonest. And one of the things that I think atheists and skeptics pride themselves on is intellectual honesty. The thing is, some would ask, why would the government keep this shit secret? There's a couple of reasons. One is mass panic. Let's be real. If people would be told, if there would be, I mean, let's just say it for the sake of hypothetical, if Obama or whoever would get on TV tonight and announce that, yes, UFOs are real, they are coming here, they've been coming here since like the mid-40s, there ain't thing one that we can do about it, feel free to panic at your own discretion. People would go fucking crazy. Not everyone. But there would be some, especially the religious, it would be the sky is falling. The Chicken Littles, the Alex Joneses would be going fucking bananas. They would be off. They're loose in the coconut to begin with. These people, their coconut would completely unwrap. It would just completely fall apart. And the rest of us would have to deal with the fact that they now have no coconut. Not just that they're a loose coconut, it's gone. So that's, in a sense, number one on the list of why they don't. It's also that what can tie into that is the aspect of Hollywood could have been tasked in the 50s, 60s, and so forth to break it to people, get them more used to seeing this through movies, through fiction, basically integrate this idea into the consciousness to kind of ease it into them. Because we can't just spring this on them all at once, type of thing. That's just maybe that's why, but I'll let that up for you to decide either way. But another reason why the government might not want to release this information, the threat to big oil. Because let's be real. Let's just say for the sake of argument that UFOs are getting here, traveling and able to do speeds and maneuvers that make our best military ships look like we're just sitting fucking still. Number one, they have a level of propulsion that is far superior to what we got. They're clearly not running even airplane fuel or rocket fuel or not the fuel that we would have, because the fuel cells that would be required would be enormous. It would be bigger than the ships themselves. So the fuel aspect, because clearly there's no gas stations in outer space. So they have to have a means of propulsion that would be beyond fossil fuels. And if that is the case, theoretically, if we would have open contact with them and be able to communicate and just be, can you explain to us how you maneuver? How do your ships move? Because can we incorporate that into our travel on this planet and completely get away from gas, fossil fuels, get away from oil and all of that completely, and go to a more natural, more green type of energy? A safer means of propulsion. And that sounds good, and it is great for us on, in a sense, an individual basis. It's not good news for big oil, big business. Companies that have million to billion-dollar profits based on fossil fuels. Those companies would not like information of this nature to be put out, because it would be completely shutting them down. So they would be, fuck no. I don't care if it would help the planet. You're not taking away my income. Because people are all about me. All for me and screw you too. That is the general attitude, especially with big business. The third aspect that is as equally as dangerous, if not more, than big business, religion. This idea is something that had occurred to me back in my 20s when I started having missing time myself. And I was forced to deal with this, in a sense, alien subject in a much more abrupt, kind of, here we are, manner. And it dawned on me the aspect of, with watching like the Highlander TV series, and the fictional aspect with the Watchers, that the character of Horton had said to MacLeod at one point about, we're made in the image of God, and that you're an abomination just because he's immortal. And it was one of that, my mind ran with it. And it was one of, I could see the religious doing this. And I was a Christian at the time. And people could be, we're made in the image of God. They look different than us, so they're made in the image of the devil. Let's kill them. And that type of mindset is one, I haven't heard in a sense, the let's kill them, but the aspect of they're demons. I've seen on YouTube different Christians say it. The aliens are demons. Here's a news flash for all you Christians. Your God is not of this world. Your own Jesus in the Bible said, be in the world but not of it. If you're not of this world, you're a fucking alien. Let's be clear. Let's be blunt. Let's be right. I lay my shit right on the table. I don't play games. I don't pull punches. I don't candy coat. I'm not going to stroke you. Especially, I ain't stroking you. I'll lay it out there and be one of, deal with it. Here it is. Because to me, and it is more one of, to use the term of, to borrow a phrase from Q, from the Spock versus Q, and that audio banter back and forth between the characters of Spock and Q. One of Q saying, there's two ways to deal with a terminal patient. One, you're going to be fine, really. The other way, you're going to kick the bucket. I am more of the, here it is. Here's the diagnosis. Here's where things are at. And that is where I think it is more, at least honest for people. Because then it's a matter of deal with the reality. And the reality is anyone that is not from this planet is an alien. Period. So Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, anybody. You want to say there's a God unless you can show it to us here. That it came from here. That it is here. Then it is a fucking alien. And you're worshiping an alien. Deal with reality. And if you want to try and say that that an alien would care what you think, that is absolutely laughable. Because do you care what ants or inchworms think? Do you even care what primates think? Do you care what your dog thinks? Do you demand your dog or cat or whatever worship you because you're more evolved? Horseshit. But this is the type of mindset that religion sets up for. And it's just one of, I want and I appreciate, I can't say it enough, I appreciate the skeptics and atheists that say, I want to see evidence. It's one, in a sense, I'm not in favor of what I term irrational skepticism, just the attitude of anything you say, I'm going to say I don't believe it, just because I want to be disagreeable. That is not intellectually honest. That is not really productive for anybody. That's simply, to use another term, that's trolling. That's not trying to contribute anything, only to be a pain in someone's ass. That type of shit I don't appreciate. But requiring me to be able to support what I'm saying with logic, with reason, that is a good thing. It really is. Because my mentor had done that with me, and I'll tell you guys, my mentor is one that, he was a cab driver when I met him, but before I had met him, he was a Navy SEAL. So he was a bit, to use the term, nuts side. He would do wacky shit just because. And to do it partially for the effect. And mind games were something he was excellent at. But being able to, in a sense, get in your head and to say, what is the evidence for what you're claiming? Because back at that time, I was very religious. I was gung-ho with it. And he really was holding my feet to the fire, and it really frustrated me. In so many ways. Because it would be, I would make a claim and he would be proven. And I would try going to the, you just have to believe it. He's like, no, I don't. And that, it irritated me. But he would also tell me, from looking at like the things in my life, he would predict things regarding what behaviors and what was going to be happening with me. And he was right every time, but he wasn't psychic. What he was doing was being extremely observant and knowing the pattern of, if you are doing this, if you're behaving in this way, logic and so forth will say this will happen. The logical progression of, from where you are right now, here is where you're going to end up. And every time he called it, he was dead on the money. So in that regard, somebody that would claim to be psychic, they might not be psychic at all. They just might know you very well and be able to recognize, okay, this is not only normal human behavior, but this is from where you're coming from the point you're at right here. If you maintain this line of thought and behaviors along the same lines, here's where you're going to end up. And in that regard, they can make predictions and be dead on, or so close to dead on that they might as well have dead on nailed it. The thing is, it's not psychic. It's just observant and knowing human behavior. That is part of that aspect, and it's something that the atheist community and the skeptic community, I think we can keep the people, the world, honest, intellectually honest. When people don't, if they don't want to get lazy, and that's the big thing. Anybody that tries to hand you this shit of you just have to believe it, bullshit. You don't have to believe jack shit. The only reason that you should go along with anything is because the evidence supports going along with that position and looking at things in that way. That there is at least a logical reason. But even something being logical and making sense on paper doesn't mean it is good and should be done in reality. A prime example of that is Marxism. On paper, looks great. In reality, sucks. There's a switch and a disconnect between what is good in theory and good in practice. And that is one where people that question, people that want to know and want to have the evidence lined up and want to show me, in a sense, playing devil's advocate, prove it to me. Even if they would accept it themselves and be saying, okay, I agree with you, now prove it to me. That even though I agree with you, I want to see what evidence you have about it. And in that regard, by all means, do so. I appreciate it. It's one, keep me honest. Because the last thing I'll wrap up with this is, like I said, I don't want to be part of the clique, because it's one of the things I noticed in high school, and I've noticed through my life, is when people, to use the term, admire someone or look up to them or regard them as part of the clique or a guru of any sort, that they almost make them unapproachable. And I don't care. The fact that I have like an internet radio show, to me, it doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter to me if I would get to be like a Larry King or anything of that nature. Bullshit. Or Bill O'Reilly or anything of that. No. If I would ever come across as having an attitude of, you can't talk to me like that, you know who I am, smack the shit out of me, please. Don't hesitate. Because that type of pompous shit, it's not who I am. And if I would ever display that shit, please, you'd be doing me a favor to just come up and because that is, it's not productive. It won't help you at all. It doesn't make you right. It doesn't improve a damn thing. And that is the biggest thing. I want all of you guys to feel that you can approach me, you can talk to me. Because I'm not just, in a sense, I don't want to be someone out there. I want you to feel like you can talk to me. If there's something that I've said that you don't understand and you want me to elaborate on, by all means, let me know. You might have to tell me a couple of times. I am getting older. I'm 40 now. So my memory's not always what it used to be. But I'm not totally decrepit yet. But I appreciate the skeptical community. I appreciate you guys, in a sense, keeping me honest. Making me have the facts and the evidence to support what I'm saying. I really appreciate it. Talk to you later.